My old boss is hellbent on getting me fired from my new position. Hey everyone, first off let me say, throw away because a lot of people know my main account. Also, I apologize for the wall of text that is ahead. Forgot TL, DR, old boss is hellbent on getting me fired, spreading lies and making my new job a living nightmare. So 5 years ago I graduated college and was applying to PA programs. I unfortunately did not get in any programs that fall, so I decided to move to a big city on the West Coast. I applied to more schools out west and didn't get in. I then decided my best bet was to get more patient care hours, so I got a job in a hospital. It wasn't ideal because my degree unfortunately is meaningless without grad school. The job I get was entry level, but it paid well and I was able to start paying back student loans and learn about inner workings of hospitals and see different departments. I loved my job because I was able to interact with patients, nurses, doctors, pretty much all hospital staff. I was hired on the midnight shift, and during my first year I asserted myself as a leader and someone you could depend on. I worked almost 3,200 hours my first year as my department was always short-staffed, so overtime was easy to come by. After my first year there I still wasn't accepted into any grad school programs. But a leadership position on afternoons opened up and I applied for it and was interviewed by a panel of managers, my manager and several others. I and 6 others out of 24 were brought back for a second interview. This one didn't involve my manager. I was told by the panel the only reason I wasn't outright given the job is because my manager didn't believe I would do a good job and she seriously doubted my leadership skills. I agreed that I wasn't the most assertive person, but I would do my best to lead by action and speak up when I needed to. The panel informed me that my job wasn't to force others to work harder. That was my manager's job to make sure everyone was pulling their weight. After a few weeks I got a call and was told I got the promotion to the lead position. A few people who had been there longer than me gave me trouble the first few weeks because we have seniority. I told my manager and she said she would handle it. We had what I thought was a good relationship, but it quickly became apparent she would have rather had someone else in my position, someone who would follow her direction without question even if it compromised patient care or privacy. About 6 months after I took my current position we had several employees switch departments or quit. I was working 7 days a week 12-hour shifts until they hired enough new people to fill our voids. This took around 4 months. At that time I was accepted into a local PA program and would start the following spring. I continued working when school started, but much less than what I was before because of school. During this time my relationship with my manager deteriorated even further and she made it clear she wanted me gone. The only thing was, her boss, the director of nursing, ranted and raved about what a wonderful job I was doing, and even though we were at 3/4 staff I was still able to manage all the work. I finally graduated from my program 2.5 years after I started. At that point I needed a break from all work as I was working 40 hours a week on top of 36 hours of interning/clinical work as well as studying. I requested all of my PTO to be used to go back home as I hadn't left to see my family in over 5 years. My PTO was approved by HR and I took off. I had 2 full months off. During my time off I got a call from the emergency department. They really wanted me to come in and be a trauma PA. I was also called by our stroke unit where I did a vast majority of my internship and they were interested in me coming to them to work. I was ecstatic because both the emergency department and stroke unit were places I wanted to work. I talked it over with my family and decided to work for the emergency department. I called my boss and told her that I was putting in my 2 weeks, and since I had a month and a half left on my vacation I figured I would be fine starting in the ED when I returned. I told her I was offered a full-time PA position and she seemed really excited for me. I notified the ED that I would be graciously accepting their offer, and that I could start as soon as I got back. My friend who works in the department told me my boss was livid I was quitting, but I didn't think much of it. I said it was too bad and people leave all the time when it is their turn to move on. I left it at that. I was very ready to get back to the hospital and begin working. However, when I returned, I ran into a bunch of issues. Firstly, HR did transfer me to the ED as a clinical staff member but didn't terminate my previous job title. My first day, my badge stopped working. I couldn't use it to get into my work area, locker room, the building. I went into HR and they said my previous manager said I wasn't part of the company anymore and to terminate my badge access. Odd, but I told them I was now a PA in the ED and showed them my new credentials. They reluctantly allowed me access to my work areas. The next week, I am pulled aside by my new boss. He asks me how everything is going and if I can swing by his office after my shift. I tell him yeah, thinking it's going to be a checkup on how the new job is going. My shift ends and I go to my new boss's office. He asks me why he is hearing so many negative things about me. I ask him what he means and he tells me I've had 3 formal complaints filed against me. I ask him if I can see them and he pulls them up on his computer. The first one is about unprofessionalism in the workplace. I ask him who filed it and he said it would be better if he kept it anonymous because the second complaint was about workplace violence. The third complaint was a HIPAA violation claim. I was taken aback because the first 2 complaints came from 2017, when I was in my original department. The third complaint was when I went to clean out my previous locker and I was verbatim, throwaway was in a secure low action where he sought out potential information about patients. It was the break room that doubled as out locker room. I was only there for 5 minutes to clean out my locker. I went to HR because all of these are serious allegations and they told me all 3 complaints were made by my former manager. I was upset that all this was happening and there is basically nothing I can do. HR conducted a formal investigation on me and found nothing to be out of place. A few weeks later my new boss had a sit down with my previous manager where she told him, she will stop at nothing until I am fired. And, he is the most lazy and unprofessional worker in this entire establishment. I went to HR to file a complaint about her and potential harassment. HR told me they are unable to file my complaint because I am under review for corrective action and a manager would never do anything like that, so I should just drop it while I am ahead. About a week later I passed my old manager and she called out me and said, "Wow, I'm surprised you're still here. I wouldn't want a provider taking care of me with your reputation in a hallway in front of patients, nurses, doctors and visitors." I tried to schedule a meeting with her to talk but she said there was nothing to talk about and my actions are reprehensible and soon enough I would be where I belong, out the doors. I heard from my boss that she has been scheduling meetings with higher-ups about me and my boss doesn't know if it is going to work if this drama continues. I don't know what I should do because, I have done nothing but display the utmost respect for her. She is just hell-bent on ruining my career at the facility and any other place I try and move to. Is there any action I should be taking right now? I feel like I should retain a lawyer and send a cease and desist letter, because her actions and false claims could be damaging my future. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. TL, old boss is hell-bent on getting me fired, spreading lies and making my new job a living nightmare. Edit, for you/common. Werewolf. Firstly, my manager was well aware 2.5 years before I left that as soon as I was done with school I would be moving on fairly quickly. She was very supportive at that time and understood because there are a lot of college kids who work in the department while they are in school. My last full year in school my manager, myself, the other afternoon leader, the 2 nighttime shift leaders and the weekend leaders, sat down to choose another lead. One of the nighttime people wanted my position which my manager agreed to. We also took applications from department workers to fill the now open nighttime lead position and filled it a full year before I would be done with school. My 2 months were approved by HR and then by my manager. We have to have double approval. She said, this was wonderful because she could rotate her new crew and as I had been reeling back my duties. The new nighttime leader was originally on my shift and he had gradually been picking up my work per my manager's request to train in the leadership role, which he's excelled at. My manager knew I hadn't been home in almost 5 years and that I really needed a break because in those 5 years I had a full week off for sickness, and a handful of random days here and there. Most of the time I was at work, didn't have a social life. That's okay, I was a grad student, didn't really need one. I missed out on a lot of things because I was willing to put in 60+ hours a week. When I went on my vacation I was not expecting to get a new position but my manager was aware that my application was out and that I could get a call that I could not turn down. Also, when I did put in my 30-day notice, I did call and I talked with her. I told her I was more than willing to start my 30 days when I returned but was told we already have the replacements in line and that they are working out well so it wasn't necessary to delay my transfer. I have done everything professionally and by the books. I always conducted myself in the most professional manner I could while improving patient care. We had replacements picked out a whole year before I left. The 2 who took over are both in school and will be there for an extended period of time because the department works incredibly well with school schedules. That is why I stayed so long. And yes, I said that to my friend because I genuinely didn't care at that point because I had multiple okays from my manager to transfer. So I wasn't so beat up about her being upset after I had the go-ahead to leave. I would love you to respond again because I do agree with what you have to say and any insight is perfectly valid and wanted. And here's what our Reddit people says. From Kyrian. If the people in HR won't help you, you keep going up. Go to the head of HR, then the chief of staff. Inform them you are being harassed by another employee and are preparing to go to the Department of Labor if something isn't done. Hospitals hate lawsuits. Or just find another job. This one is from Grace SW. Everything suggested so far is good advice. Since the director of nursing was raving about you in your prior position, she should be a supportive person to include when addressing the manager's behavior. You might also refer your current manager to the director of nursing for an internal reference. Another comment is from Perilous All. About a week later I passed my old manager and she called out Mimi and said, "Wow, I'm surprised you're still here. I wouldn't want a provider taking care of me with your reputation in a hallway in front of patients, nurses, doctors and visitors." As a manager myself, whatever legit or not legit beef she has with you, this is over the line and should be reported. In the future, as others have said, document everything. Also, I've had success with getting people to SDFU by simply asking them to repeat their snarkiness in front of someone else, or put it in an email. There's only one reason you want a witness or written record, and she knows it. This next one is from Ang Marciller. Document. 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 Forward all emails to a separate account. Keep a log of all interactions. If you do get fired, you may longer have access to any work-related emails. And this last one is from melting_penguins. Your hospital has to have a compliance department. There should also be an ethics hotline that usually handled by compliance, not HR, or call your compliance officer directly if you don't want to report anonymously. The hospital should not only have a code of conduct but a non-retaliation policy. Read those policies, they are usually not HR policies and are dealt with through compliance. Since there is also a HIPAA violation accusation that would be through compliance as well. Compliance should have been notified of any reported HIPAA violation and investigated. Obviously reporting this to HR has not helped, time to report this further. And that's all for today guys. See you on the next one.